switch.
There we
There we
go.
go.
There we go.
So anyway, so I got to see him today. I wanted to meet him, but he came late. His plane landed late. And so I was there for the whole conversation, and pretty much the conversation is, how do we get those Latino voters back? How do we get them back? Because I'm going to tell you, and I didn't know this information, but 52% of the Cubans voted for Obama the first time around. 48% voted the second time around. And still, that when they voted for Hillary Clinton, those numbers were not as bad as they were now. So I just, and Biden, it was like 70%. Like, it was like 70% they voted like for Trump. So just, we were talking about that. We were talking about what can we do better here in the state of Florida. The fact that we had like $300 million of campaign, right, that was coming down for 2020 for Biden. And guess how much we got for the 2024 election? 18 million. 18 million.
What?
The number is so sad. So Nikki Fried was talking about that. It was terrible. The numbers were sad. And this is one of the reasons, because we really didn't have a lot of resources. The resources was pretty much me screaming to the ground. But I already told you that I didn't think we would have in Florida, right? There was no way. We didn't have any money. I can see that because I belong to a PAC. And in this PAC, we were not getting any money from any big Democratic donors. So I already knew that was a mute issue. Now, one of the things they also said too is because the conservative radios, right? I've been preaching this, right? You don't have to talk to me. This is like my favorite subject. That the conservative radios were really like on full demand, and there's hardly any liberal news for the Hispanic community. They were also talking about that they were not engaging. The Democrats were not engaging in Miami, which is something I said about Demings lost because she didn't go to Miami enough. She didn't re-engage them. She didn't engage the Hispanic and Latino community, nor the Haitian community. So when it was time, she says she's 10 minutes away and she'll be here soon. She told me she's gonna be here, like she wanted to come at 7. And then she started eating sushi. Anyway.
Girl, she's a Latina.
Yeah. That whole meeting, I was like, they started late. And I was like, you know what? Did they start late because they know that we're Latinos and and they did it on purpose? So anyway, Ken Martin was there. What he had to say was amazing. If you guys follow me on YouTube, I put the whole 14 minutes up of what he said in the beginning because I thought it was very important. I put in what Samuel also said. Because Samuel Vilches Santiago is Venezuelan and he is responsible. He is the chair for the Orange County Democratic Party here. And he's also on the national level as well. So to me, that's amazing. We do have Venezuelans that are Democrats. We can't always say, oh no, all of them voted for them. The ones that I met today are fully Democrat and have been working, trying to save their people, because what they said is that they saw a similarity of what happened in Venezuela and what's currently happening now. And that is what's scary to them. We have like
Say similarity. What exactly are they talking about?
the dictatorship, the way that they were taking freedoms,
Okay.
That's what they were talking about financially. Like, because what they did is that they took their retirement fund. They took their money.
Wow.
So when they're talking about Social Security, this is alarming to them. They might not have the issues of trying to separate them, right? Separate the races, right? That's not really the issue. The issue there is pretty much the have and the have-nots.
Right.
Which is our issue too. And then we convoluted with all the other factors.
We convoluted with Doge and Mr. Ketamine taking, 2 to 3 times a week nonsense. That's what he admitted to Don Lemon this past week. It's, that whole craziness.
So she says she's 10 minutes away, but you did your research, Letty?
Girl, I'm looking at stuff right now.
Yeah, she is, because she probably came from a live when I told her she needed to go to sleep and research.
I told you earlier, the Democratic Party is about to lose the Mexicans, which is the largest voting bloc.
We can't do that. We can't. Listen, Mexicanos.
I'm telling you right now.
Mexicanos, we can't lose you.
I'm telling you right now.
That's the sentiment. So this is why I'm saying, this is why he's going around and engaging the Latino community, because it is the second largest voting bloc, right? And you have the Mexicans that are the largest voting bloc in the Latino community. Oh, I'm sorry. What is again? You don't like Latino.
We are Mexican.
The large Mexican group is the largest
The largest voting bloc in the monolith. In the monolith.
So that was another thing he said. Ken Martin says the Latinos are not a monolith. I was happy to hear that. I was happy to hear that once again. You can catch the 14 minutes that he spoke, because I was not going to hold the camera that long. But I like his introduction. I mean, when he was speaking about the issues that really are core values to the Democratic Party. So let me tell you a little bit about Cecilia Cici Gonzalez. Okay. If you look her up, the person that we're going to have today, she was actually did a feature in Orlando Sentinel, and they talked about it. Because she put a face. And this is what it's amazing, right? A lot of people that started putting lawsuits, if you look it up, there's some people that's kept confidential. They didn't want their name put out there. But she is putting her face out there. The newspapers are writing about her. And she's a young woman. I don't remember her age, but she's graduating from UCF this May. So she decided to take the Trump administration to task. And last week she went to San Diego to talk about this lawsuit, because what they're trying to do is put an injunction in place by April 7th. Now, she has a date that her and her family is supposed to leave in September. And so she probably had to get a driver's license that ends in September. But this all came out all of a sudden, right? That you no longer to be here in this country. We're changing everything. So it's kind of scary for her. And she is a big Democratic supporter. She has foots on the ground. She's helped the Maxwell Frost campaign, so many campaigns. She wants a women's right to choose. She got petitions signed for that. And she's going to tell you the list. And I know her from Alianza for Progress and Alianza and United for Progress, because she worked with these organizations. So she's currently right now a co-founder, senior fellow, and spokesperson for Venezuelan American Caucus. So we have Democrats. It's just they're trying to understand where did they go wrong. And so I'll let her speak to that a little bit more. So she is a community organizer. She's a civil rights advocate. So this is somebody that we're going to lose if she has to go back to Venezuela. She was born and raised in Venezuela and found her new home in Central Florida 8 years ago. Since then, she has advocated for immigration reform that includes pathways to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants. And let me let this crazy dog out. This dog is...
Ay, ay, ay.
Listen, this is how I can never have like a real podcast, because there's no way. I have too many interruptions in this house. Anyway,
Listen, I feel really bad for what she's going through, in all honesty. But speaking 100 truth on my side, right? I'm here. I'm going to support you. I'm going to be here because I'm your friend and I love you, right? I'm going to read the information. I'm going to look at it, but I'm kind of saucy. Okay.
Okay, we can't no sauciness into this conversation. We want people to be repeat guests.
I'm a little saucy because I have people in my community who have been here for over 30 years and still can't get any kind of immigration reform or benefits. And then I have my old people, like my parents, looking at the fear of being deported, even though they're legal residents. And so when people come to me, and no offense to Sissy, I get her story is real. It's very valid. But it really irks me when I get people that say, but my TPS, but my DACA, but my parole en place. I'm really saucy because we don't get shit. Nothing. We get all of the villainization, all of the caca thrown at us, but nothing good for us. And when immigration reform does come, guess what? It comes in the form of the Dignity Act, which is a bunch of bullshit.
That's bullshit. Because we could talk that. It seems like we're going to have another live that's going to be on topic with that. But Letty, eyes on me. Eyes on me, Letty. We can inject that a little to the conversation. But the thing is, she's 1 out of 4 people. Everybody else is sitting there waiting for what other people are going to do. And this is what kind of pisses me off. That's why I get upset with federal employees. You lost your job, but you're not suing. Nobody's coming together collaboratively. Let's put a giant lawsuit.
Wait. There are, remember, you've got lawsuits from the, what is it, AFL?
No, you do. No,
you've got lawsuits like that.
You do. But sometimes, like this lawsuit right here for TPS, there's a face to it. And she's
Okay,
the
I see
face.
what you're saying. That we
He's a
right
face to
now
it.
there's
Because too
right,
many of
the
them
union
want to
workers who
be
don't have
confidential. Keep
faces.
my information
Right.
confidential.
Mm-hmm.
So let me continue on, Letty. Letty, eyes on me. I love you. Love you.
I love you too, my
Hey,
Boricua sister.
wait, Letty, why do you have on a sweatshirt today and I got on a t-shirt? What's going on?
I'm cold.
How the hell are you cold? What is this nonsense with cold and you're in California?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Make
like
that
60.
make sense.
My hands are freezing. Stop it, Matrix.
Okay,
This is
do you
really,
want some of our weather? Because we hit 81 today here in the DC area.
Yeah, I would love that.
Oh,
all right. You guys are killing me. She's coming right now. All right.
Listen, a way to kill a Californian is throw them to the East Coast during
yes.
winter. We will die.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right now. All right. Anyway, this freaking dog just came in here. All right. So it says, and she advocated for immigration reform that includes pathway to citizen for millions of undocumented immigrants, DACA recipients, TPS holders, and essential workers. She believes every person who comes to this country deserves to have access to the same opportunities. You see how loud it is over here in this household? You don't hear it?
No, we don't hear
No,
it.
it's
These
just you.
motherfuckers. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I know what I want to know.
What?
What kind of lawyers does she go to?
Okay, we're gonna ask that question. I'll give you the floor for that one.
Because that's what I want for my people. What kind of lawyers? Because I need some.
Yeah. So, she believes every person who comes to this country deserves to have access to the same opportunities. She lives in Kissimmee. She gives back to the community as an Orlando Global Shaper project lead, managing a network of 18 little free libraries. So she does that. She tried to get my books. I totally forgot to give her books. And inspiring other emerging leaders. As a new Leader Council alumni, Cecilia obtained her associate's in arts in Valencia College, and then she transferred to UCF to obtain a bachelor's degree in political science and a minor in Latinx and Caribbean studies. At the moment, she's working with her honor undergrad thesis, exploring the relationship between book banning and censorship. She serves as the executive board of the League of Women's Voters on Orange County and in the Giffords, Florida Steering Committee. Currently, CC focuses her advocacy efforts on the Voting Rights Advocacy Coordinator with Latino Justice, PRLDEF, to ensure every eligible voter has a voice in democracy. So she's young.
I see that.
She's young. And so what I'm saying is that these are the kind of caliber people we want to keep here. And I'm quite sure, Letty, there's a whole bunch of caliber Mexicans that should be here already, that should already have their citizenship, their residency status at least. And that hasn't happened. I think she's at the door right now.
You know, I get that young people will get a lot of things, but my gripe is the older people that have seen their parents perish and never been able to return to their land. That's my gripe.
Yeah, I saw it on my third.
Yeah.
It came out.
I should stay quiet.
You saw it?
I did saw it.
Instagram.
I saw the
You saw the glitch? You saw the glitch?
No, I didn't open it, pero there was a
No,
glitch.
ahí está. Say hello.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
This is
Hello.
Letty and this is Matrix right here. But Letty is usually my moderator. She makes sure that nobody's trying to throw my live. And the reason we're doing this, because we're going to do it here, because the numbers are not as accurate. Like you might see 16, but there could be 700 in the room watching without them clicking into the live. And that's what I wanted to do on it. But Letty didn't answer the phone when I told her to.
What? Now it's my fault?
Yes. Because you was in
Mira.
another live talking to your
Mira,
Mexican people.
Boricua sister, we're going to bump it out again.
I know. But anyway, here we have Cecilia C. Gonzalez. And I just introduced yourself. I just read the whole thing because I wanted her to do it. We just came from a meeting, and I were you in meetings?
I was in a meeting, and then I went to a gala to support a Venezuelan youth orchestra.
Okay.
And then now I'm here.
See, look at Letty. I love her. She's a little touchy today. She had too many lives. Okay, so I really appreciate it. I was telling them that last week you had to go to court in regards to that. But please tell us a little bit about your journey. If you guys want to read a little bit about it, she was an Orlando Sentinel, and I can put the article in my or maybe Letty could put it in the little comment section. Love you. Orlando Sentinel, just put her name, Cecilia Gonzalez, and it'll come out. Okay? So just tell me what happened. So I gave them the backdrop of why you're here. So what happened?
Yes. So last Monday in San Francisco, we met to hear the first time the complaint. Pretty much the complaint means the arguments that we, the plaintiff, had to say why the removal of TPS was unconstitutional. Then we also met with the attorney from the government side, why they were arguing that they were having all the power to do what they just did. So the judge listened to both sides. It's important to say that it was almost 3 hours of intense debating, where we were trying first to argue that he does have the jurisdiction to be able to rule in this case. Because this is what the government is arguing. The government is arguing that this judge do not have jurisdiction, and they're trying to stop the case from even being heard. And then on the other side, there were three main reasons why we were arguing that the TPS removal was unconstitutional. The first one, pretty much that the secretary had no power to remove something that a previous secretary already granted. And on the second page is the fact that this was racial motivation behind this. It's very clear that this administration, it is a racist administration that is being attacking Venezuelans from day one. They are arguing that Venezuela is somehow fixed and it's safe for Venezuelans to return. And it's just part of a narrative where they want to make it seem like Venezuela is just fine so they can go back to do deals to get cheap gas. Like that's the conversation. They just want to make it seem like Venezuela is okay, despite Venezuela having the largest population of political prisoners, or like large human rights violations and tortures taking place in those prisons. So that's what we were hearing, and we did saw a judge that is very empathic to the circumstances. This is the same judge that ruled on the Ramos case, which was the attempt to remove TPS for Salvadoranians during the first Trump administration. So this is a judge that is already familiar with the nature of this case, and he read both of the complaints ahead of the hearing. And one of the first questions he did to the government was in the terms of, are Venezuelans of the national interest? Or it's true that Venezuelans do hold high school diploma and higher education diploma? Is it true that the crime rates among Venezuelans is significantly small compared to the general population? Which the government only had to argue that was not relevant, which is their way to excuse it. But we all know that Venezuelans do contribute significantly to the economy, to these communities in a positive way, despite being some people committing a little amount of crime. But that happens in every community, and we cannot be criminalized because 2 or 3 individuals are doing not good. So that's pretty much how that conversation went. We're now at the wait for the judge to respond. We think it's going to happen very shortly in the coming days and hours, because there's an urgency. Like some Venezuelans are losing their protections earlier next week.
That's the 7th, right?
Yeah, and then we do need answers because their work authorizations are going to expire. Their driver license are tied to their work authorizations, and certainly nobody want to be out there as of right now driving with an expired driver license. So we are kind of like all waiting. I do remain very optimistic. I do think that this judge is one very knowledgeable on the nature of the case, and second, he's being very cautious. He did not take any stand early on in order for him to make an informed decision. He took the time. He asked all the questions that he needed to ask, and he followed with the experts. And I think that's the correct thing. This is a case that is going to impact a lot of people. There's about 600,000 people in this program. And the judge is aware of the urgency, so I remain very optimistic.
So why you? Why did you decide to be the face? And aren't you a little bit scared?
To start with the question about being scared. Poquito and water.
Okay.
Water. In terms of being scared, I think after I flee Venezuelan dictatorship, I flee and I left a lot of things behind, and a lot of the things I left behind along that, gracias, there was fear. There's fear. There's no more fear after you have left your life and your family and everything that you have known to come to this country, and it's hard to put your face and your name and literally my whole life in front of a judge, and in front of this government, because at the end of the day, the lawsuit is not just to Christine Nolan as Secretary of the Homeland Security, but also it's to the whole government. It is not an easy task, but I remain optimistic that we do live in a country where there is still separation of power, there is still check and balances, and there is still transparency among our agencies and among our departments. So understanding that, I don't have fear of retaliation, of any fear in terms of persecution. And why me? I think the answer was simple. My parents both raised me under democratic values and under the idea that you gotta speak truth to power. My dad is an attorney in human rights. My mom is a political science specialist with a focus on public policy. And I grew up in Venezuela seeing injustices, and my parents raised me under the idea that what is happening in Venezuela is not normal. The fact that people's human rights are being violated is not okay. And that whenever you have the chance to stand up, you have to. So in these circumstances, very, very sad circumstances, came less than 2 months ago. And when the LCLU reached out and says, Cecilia, we want to file a lawsuit. Would you be willing to put your name? I didn't hesitate. I say yes, because my years as an activist and my years as an organizer prep me for this. Like I have been on the ground, registering voters, ensuring that every eligible voter had a fair chance to access the ballot box. And now I had a chance to take my activism and my organizing skills into a different level. Now it's in a courthouse, but it's also a messaging battle. There's two battles going on. There's a legal battle that the attorneys are going to be leading, but there's a messaging battle where we have the opportunity to change the narrative that not all immigrants were all the same, that not all Venezuelans are TDA, and that the good, hardworking, honest Venezuelans are the vast majority of us. Like, I'm a student at the University of Central Florida, about to graduate next month, and the example of that my parents sacrificed a lot for me to be able to be in this country, and I'm just honoring their sacrifices. And in this opportunity is at the front of a legal battle, and why I did it, because I felt like I had to, and because I can, because I'm not afraid and I'm unapologetic, and I have nothing to lose, because I already left behind a country and I'm not willing to run away one more time.
I wanted to ask you this because this is something that keeps happening in the Trump administration. Every time they go to court, they seem very unprepared, and they just seem like they don't know the constitutional law. Like they have no idea that they're not able to do this. How was the hearing for them? How did they manage that?
I agree. Whatever you just said is exactly what we saw. We saw two attorneys who seemed like they didn't do their homework. I'm like, did they not do their part of the homework? No, they didn't. There were multiple times where the judge asked them follow-up direct questions. They were asked them follow-up direct questions. They were whether or not the administration did X, Y, and Z, and they were like, unfortunately, we cannot answer this as of right now, or we don't have the answer for that. I think one of the turning points for me was when the judge asked, where were the reports that the secretary used to make her decision that Venezuela indeed have improved their living conditions? Because the secretary not only mentioned that she used reports from the Department of State and other agencies, and he wanted to see those reports where they say that Venezuela is now safe, and they say that they were not able to provide that as of now. So that tells you that they don't have the facts and the data that they claim that they did in first place. In terms of their non-understanding or not knowing how the Constitution works, I do think that's very true. I think we're seeing an administration that whether either it doesn't understand law or doesn't care about it. And I'm leaning more towards the second, where we're seeing a president telling journalists that he doesn't care. That he doesn't care what the judges are going to say. That where the message the administration is saying is, hey, you attorneys and hey, you immigration judges, if you are not letting me get away with the things I want to do, I'm going to come for you. And he's trying to tell us that he has all the government on his side, that he has the Supreme Court on his side, and that nobody can mess up with him. The reality is that we still live in a democracy, and we still live in a country where we have accountability and where we have the power of the people to raise their voices when we see things not working out. And I think we're going to start facing threats to our democracy. Mm-hmm. We see it earlier during January 6th, and I think I do believe in democracy, and I think the American people spoke and elected this administration, but we gotta continue watching close. Because as someone who flee a regime, democracies are strong until they're not anymore. Mm-hmm. And the American democracy is as one that can be crumbling very soon if we do not pay attention.
Mm-hmm. So I know that was really interesting because we were there, right? We were there with the Democratic leader, mm-hmm. which I can't ever think of his name.
Ken Martin.
Yes, Ken Martin. But there was several Venezuelans, and one of the things they were talking about the parallels of what they see what happened in Venezuela and what's happening now here in the States. Can you talk a little bit about that? What they see? Because some of you, it's like. It's the weirdest thing, right? Because we get frustrated. We get frustrated with the Cubans. We get frustrated with Venezuelans because a lot of them in South Miami, right? They were like, it felt like they fell into that cult, right? Like socialist. And that was such a terrible word. But what do you think they see right now? Like the Venezuelans that are Democrat, that are fighting against this injustice. What do you think they're seeing that is the same thing like Venezuela, con Maduro and Chavez?
We actually, Leopoldo Martinez Nucete, who used to work at the Biden administration at the Department of Commerce, we met earlier at my house and we were talking about when was the turning point in Venezuela when we actually saw democracy going down the hill. Mm-hmm. And it was 2007. Once Chavez had total control of the Congress, mm-hmm. where he modified the Constitution for him to be able to get elected for whatever amount of time, like he got out of term limits. And where he removed Supreme Court judges. So that was a turning point in Venezuela's democracy, where democracy was not a team anymore, where he had total control and had no opposition. And my dad said, the U.S. is right now in that point, where either you're seeing the things about to take place, and whether you do something or just remain silent. And that was shocking, because you're in the part of I already saw this movie, but I'm on the movie right now, and I'm seeing the movie continue, and I'm not doing we all want to scream and make you all react and be like, guys, stop, because we saw how this ends. And I think the difference with Cuba and Venezuela was that when Cubans alerted Venezuelans earlier in 2000, a lot of Venezuelans were naive enough to say, this is not going to happen in Venezuela, because Cuba was an island, and that's why it all went down the hill. But Venezuela was in the middle of Latin America, in the middle of a it was developing, it was in mm-hmm. this big economy moment, and it still went down the hill. Mm-hmm. And it went down the hill because we democratically elected a populist who was very good with media and creating a narrative and convincing a lot of people of a vision of a country. And once he was able to have a lot of control politically, he was able to get away with a lot of things. And that's when mm-hmm. you start saying that it's not a matter that he was a socialist, or that he was a left, and now we live in a right wing. Mm-hmm. Totalitarian regimes happen in both sides, and we have seen in our history from both sides, the left and the right. What we see as a parallel here are trying to rip away civil rights at first. The matter of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is one of the very first ones that goes away during dictatorships. And mm-hmm. what we're seeing with Trump is they cannot just start closing channels and censoring things left and right, but mm-hmm. they're doing it.
Yeah.
AP and NPR are not allowed into the White House anymore. Then certain media are the only ones that are going to be allowed to cover the president. Mm-hmm. Then we change the name of the Gulf of Mexico. All those little things are ways that they're doing to distract us while they're doing other things, like texting war plans to explode Yemen. Mm-hmm. But we are thinking about the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah. Or are we going to take Greenland or no? In the meantime, he's breaking every relationship with our partners in the democratic nations across. We're literally in a moment where stronger allies in Europe are feeling extremely offended. They should, because we have straight through Ukraine, mm-hmm. We have embarrassing in the middle of the most important office in the country while being televised. We literally have the media covering how the head of this country is treating one of our longest allies who is now needing us the most, but we're making fun of him. So this is the message that we're sending to the democratic nations. And this is concerning because we're telling our allies, we don't need you. We're the strongest people. We don't care. Bye. We're going to put tariffs here and there. The egg prices are here and there. While civil rights are being taken away at the local level, where there is like bills being introduced in every single state to like disenfranchised voters, to like we're gonna get women are having less rights than the year before, where at some point mixed status families are being not only separated, but they're actually, to avoid being separated, they're deporting all together, including the U.S. citizenship. So all these little civil rights battles at the beginning of the whole diffraction democracies, and these are things that it's funny when I speak about these things because I didn't see them at first while growing up in Venezuela for the basic reason that I was a child. Like Chavez took power in the December of 1998. I was born in 1999, so I'm 26 years old, but I haven't known anything else. Like I grew up into the Venezuelan the Maduro government as a teenager. And I see my friends protesting on the streets. I saw my friends getting arrested. I saw my friends getting incarcerated and tortured. So this is the only I know. But because it's the only I know, it's because I'm able to identify very quickly what have we seen in Colombia. This persecution to the student activists. This is fascism is its best moment.
So there's so many thoughts going in my brain, but I want to give Letty and I want to give Matrix if they have questions. I know that somebody wanted to enter the chat, but I'm not allowing anyone else to enter the chat right now because I think it's very important that we have this discussion of everything that's happening. So we have somebody who is definitely putting a face to Venezuela and the TPS, her status. And I think it's important because a lot of them, they're confidential. And I think it's important because a lot of them, they're confidential. And so the LCAU is like begging people, come forward. Can you put your face on it? And here she is. She's doing it. And listen, we know that Trump is looking at these videos. There are several people getting already in trouble because they are talking about Trump so much and Musk and this administration that what is happening, right? All of the views are going down. All of a sudden, they try to give me a violation. And I was like, I didn't do any videos to violate. And I thought I couldn't go live today. And I was like, this is not working out for me. So you have to be really careful because if you go to the airport right now, right? Because that TPS, even though it might be to September, they were like, you know what? You're going now. You're going now. So the fear is very real for many people. And it's black and brown because they're doing it for the Haitian people. They're doing it in some of the African countries. They're doing it in Muslim countries. And Puerto Ricans have been taken away until they show proof, which is one of the reasons I'm very pissed off at my husband on Segway, in which I wanted a freaking passport card. And let me tell you, Letty, he got the check just for a passport and expedited. Pissed me off. I got to go back on Friday and get it. And he didn't understand, my son who suffers from anxiety, the reason why is looking at like a brown kid, right? And he looks Latino. The fact that he gets stopped and his anxiety level, and he don't even have a card that can stop all the anxiety. That's another topic. Sorry, I went somewhere else. Letty, you have a question, Matrix?
Letty, do you want to ask first or?
No, how about you go first?
Okay.
She's thinking.
With regards to going back to the court case that you actually attended, what was the judge's sentiment at the end? Was it just mainly I'll take into consideration what was given to me, or did he actually go back to the defenses and go, okay, I'm not seeing the information that you guys are trying to say, well, Venezuela is better? How did he leave it off?
I will say that he is being super cautious on how he projects himself, because this is just the beginning of the trial, and it could get compromised if he's seen any bias towards either, especially because what I mentioned, that Trump has already sent a message to immigration attorneys and judges that he's watching. And this is a judge that was appointed by Obama, and he needs to be extra cautious. So he did not send any idea how his ruling may be, but all the fact that he opened up the hearing by asking the questions about the Venezuelans' contributions to the country make it seem like he had it on the right direction. That he says, okay, these people are contributing to the country. Like these people are not costing us; they're actually contributing in a positive way. They're not taking away resources. They're also creating jobs. They're entrepreneurs. They're opening businesses. They're homeowners. So he had that very clear. But a lot of the questions that he did towards the end, in terms not only of jurisdiction, but it was also in terms of like who was going to get impacted first, the 2023 TPS that is about to expire in early April, then the TPS from 2021 that was the first designation. So he did a lot of those questions for him to have it clear. And I think both the attorneys and the plaintiff, we felt a little more relief knowing that he understood the case. Like you could tell he read our arguments, and not only our arguments, but all our testimonies. Like there's 7 named plaintiffs on the case, and each of us filled up a declaration where we list the reasons of why this is going to impact our lives in kind of like giving a context. Because if you say that 600,000 people are going to be impacted, it just sounds like a number. And if you don't put faces, it's hard for you to prove that behind behind that number, there's people, there's families. He actually make a reference to one of my co-plaintiffs. She's a single mother of a kid with asthma, that if he have a severe attack, she needs to drive him to the hospital, and if her work authorization expired, her driver license is going to expire, and she won't be able to take care of her own child. So stories like that is why it was important that they were named plaintiffs along with the National TPS Alliance as an umbrella organization that covers all impacted TPS recipients, Venezuelans, and now Haitians as well. So I think the judge is very aware. I did think he read like carefully both arguments, the plaintiff and the defense from the government. I think along with everybody else is right now, we're just anxious. We're all waiting on these answers. What I told earlier to some fellow Venezuelans is I understand the sentiment and I understand why everybody may feel overwhelmed, but we just gotta remain calm, because we cannot be just taking decisions like driven by the fear, because it does not end well. And it's hard to tell someone to remain calm as of right now when they already flee a country once, where they very likely left everything they own in their house. They sold it to be able to build a second life here. And just the idea of either return to a country they're not safe anymore, or even thinking about going to a third country, it is scary, and it is irresponsible for a government to just tell you, like, you know what, guys, you're not welcome here anymore, like, bye. Particularly to 600,000 people. And on the other hand, what I have been like reinforcing with Venezuelans is that now more than ever is our moment to behave, to like do good, go work hard, be careful, don't mess around, because we cannot give an excuse. Like we cannot give an argument that, yeah, you see, Venezuelans are doing this, Venezuelans are doing that. Like, no. It's a moment to show them our best side. And that's why my feeling, I think that's the thing, are the same feelings for my fellow plaintiff, is that we are anxious, but we're trying as much as we can to remain calm and to tell others to it, because timing is limited, but things happen when there are in the right timing. Like, you cannot, people used to say, you cannot rush perfection, and this is one of the moments. Like, we're getting ready for a very long litigation case. I tell people, this is not a 5K, this is a marathon, and this is not about speed. This is about consistency. Like, it's about resistance. We need to be steady, because the Ramos case for the Salvadorians took almost 4 years. Wow. So we need to be ready because and then you got appeals, it's gonna take a while, but people need to understand that the attorneys are doing their part, because that's what they're experts, and we the organizers and the surrogates and the activists are doing the other part, which is raising the message.
So, but one of the things that they're trying to do right now is get that injunction in place for April 7th, so those people are not let out of the country. Now, I'm going to put a story. I'm going to put it because my cousin works at Advent Health Orlando, the big hospital, and there are some nurses there that are Venezuelans that work, certain jobs there. And right now, there's somebody in the team in which she's really beloved in the hospital, the women and labor and delivery. And she got that letter. She's one of the letters that she has to leave soon as possible, April 7th or whatever. And right now the nurses are putting money together because she much rather go on her own accord than letting the Trump administration do it. So right now I'm like, I'm telling my cousin, I understand why you're raising the money, but it's kind of scary because what about if the injunction is not in place? What about if it doesn't happen? And Trump is threatening a whole bunch of law firms. There's two of them. I believe two of them backed down. Letty? Was there any questions, by the way? Because I'm not looking at this.
So there's some people that have said, obviously, many of their friends are scared that our Venezolanos stay strong. They're talking about a woman that was arrested today in Georgia because of a miscarriage. Somebody said that the same thing is happening in Zimbabwe, literally democracy. I wish this would have been done with previous administrations where, you could fight back. And my comment to all of this is, I know first and foremost, I want to say, it's very admirable what you're doing. I think it's great that you're standing up, and that's really important. Every community should be standing up at this moment. But in all reality, why would you want to stay in a country that is already persecuting journalists and people who spoke up against the whole Israel and Palestine thing are currently being arrested? And aside from that fact, me believing that you're very admirable, why is your community afforded the ability to have this TPS when you had someone in your community literally going on the internet telling everyone how to receive free assistance and living, and really demonized your community and made it even worse? And not only are you did this person demonize your community, but it caused a lot of repercussions for everyone else's communities because of this one individual. He was a young man going around telling people how to live in the United States for free on tax dollars, and this happened earlier last year.
Aleito.
Yes.
Yes, I know exactly. I know exactly who she's talking about.
These are hard questions, but I think they need to be asked.
No, we need to have this conversation for how accountable they are, because
who was recently deported, and the people on the plane were very angry that he was on this plane, because, like I said, the focus was on my community for the longest time. But when all of this happened, your community is the one that's being ostracized right now. Your community is the one that's being sent to El Salvador, which is, in all means, to me, is disgusting.
It's a human rights violation.
It is a human rights violation. And I understand that. So that's why I'm saying, I have a multitude of questions that I'm asking you, because I think they're all very important. Because
let me try to go through a few of them as I remember them. Why will someone want to stay in a country where I feel persecuted? For one reason, because we cannot let them win. This country not only belongs to them, it belongs to all of us, the ones being persecuted and the ones that are not being persecuted just yet, but are coming right after us. Like today was Venezuela and Haiti. There's other 15 countries that receive TPS, and there's space in this country for all of us. And we cannot let them win. I have said in other interviews before that as a Venezuelan, I learned early on that when things get ugly, you're left with two options. You either flee or fight. And I'm here as someone who already flee once. So I'm choosing to fight. I had no other option to fight the fight, because others can't. And I'm able to it, so I'm choosing to do it. So why am I going to stay, even though I may not feel as welcome as right now? Because this country is better than that. If this country is as big as we think it is, there's a space for all of us. And I was told the other day by a fellow activist in the democratic space that there's nothing more American than what am I doing, which is this is a celebration of our true American values. This is what this country is about. In terms of the people that are demonized or are contributing to the criminalization of our community, including content creators like Leito, who are encouraging people to take advantage of all the resources and opportunities that this country provides. Leito is not the 600,000 Venezuelans. There is the good Venezuelans, and I don't like to use myself as an example, but
you're good.
But Samuel.
I know you're good. Yeah,
Samuel. We have Jose.
Everybody there today in the meeting.
Everybody today, and all the other faces that people don't know that don't have
Leaders.
a space.
But they don't understand they're leaders.
But they're good, but they're change makers. They're
Mhm.
like the people that wake up early in the morning and go late at night.
Mhm.
People that have 2 or 3 jobs. Like those
Mhm.
are the real Venezuelans that we don't get to celebrate.
Mhm.
That are the ones creating opportunities. Like I always tell people very proudly that I'm graduating from UCF without owning the government nothing. Like I was
Right.
someone that couldn't receive bright futures, so I had to pay my tuition myself and earn different scholarships through the times.
Mhm.
And all my friends too. None of them qualify for federal aid. So these are the real Venezuelan stories that we should be celebrating, and not only Venezuelans, but the real immigrant stories that we were told that the American dream is possible for all of us that we're willing to work hard. So these are the real Venezuelans. Yes, there's people like Leito that, and to what extent, and he's deported, he's being deported. But the reality is that we don't know into what extent these people are also actors from the government in Venezuela. We don't even know into what extent these things are being powered by the government in Venezuela, who gets advantage of Venezuelans being targeted and criminalized here because it's convenient for the government for Venezuelans to be, even if they get deported, because now the regime gets to celebrate these deportations and be like, you see, guys, the gringos didn't want y'all, so welcome home, and they celebrated after they're being dehumanized. On the conversation about El Salvador, yes, over 200 Venezuelans were deported because of potential links with the TDA. Links that haven't been able to be confirmed in the first place. Like there be people being targeted by the tattoos they have. There's people that have a tattoo for a soccer team. There's honest people there. Yeah, there's someone who have a tattoo by Real Madrid, which is a tattoo very common among gangs, allegedly. And they catch him and they say, you have a tattoo, and another member.
There was one with
That's the whole thing. It's not been proven that these people are even associated just because they have a tattoo. That, I mean, it's a similar tattoo, but it's not the actual
But
one.
not
and
only
that's what I
that,
keep
not all of
hearing.
them are Venezolanos.
Exactly.
Not only that, and then you also got the fact that according to human rights agreements, including the Treaty of Rome, which the United States do not subscribe. But the one reason why the United States do not subscribe to many of these human rights agreements is because the United States is willing to violate human rights. That's a reality. This agreement says that every individual deserves the right to due process before being removed. And
That is
even if
correct.
you get removed, then should be deported to the original nation. So you cannot be sending people to El Salvador just because you think that they may be associated to a gang. Particularly because the conditions that they're living now in El Salvador are beyond dehumanizing. We have seen a few videos, and they are not an extension of the trauma and torture they may be facing as we're talking right now. So what the United States is engaging right now is concerning, because as a democratic nation, you see how we're treating, yes, people that may have been committed crimes, dehumanizing, concerning. The fact that yes, we accept a deal on an offer by an ally, El Salvador, saying, yeah, we can rent, like, grantee for you, this rent a jail for you. And Marco, originally Marco says, oh, this is a very generous offer, we're not going to take it. A week later, they're doing it. This is concerning. And again, I think Venezuelans, sadly, we have become the victims of another political agenda. We did it back in Venezuela for 20 years. And now we were a very easy item for the Republicans to grab. They were like, during the campaign trail, they spoke strongly against immigrants in general, Puerto Ricans included. Like everybody was like a splash on it. And as a Trump took over, he haven't been talking about why Venezuela is not a democracy. He had not been showing support to the democratically elected president in Venezuela. Meantime, he's sending his staff to cut deals with the Maduro regime. So
Can I point something
that the
out?
United States has.
Can I point something out? We're saying immigrants, and when I hear immigrants, I'm hearing all walks of life. I'm hearing all colors. And forgive me for saying so, it's not, can we say it's not all immigrants? Because I've yet to see someone from the Netherlands get kicked out. I've yet to see anyone from
and
Denmark
that's important.
get kicked
Well,
out.
even with the humanitarian parole now, they just canceled humanitarian parole for Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. As our Secretary of State, a kid of a Cuban is part of this administration that has canceled the humanitarian parole for Cubans that have a lot of like family reunification. It's the same parole that Ukrainian has. And I'm not trying to encourage that we should cancel the parole for Ukraine.
I think that's gonna be no. He's gonna go after Ukrainians.
But they're white.
Yeah, no.
But that's probably the only YT group that.
No. They
I'm sorry.
the Germans and put them in ICE. They did a Canadian like that. There's several stories
I saw the Canadian
in which the countries are putting there in the bulletin. Do not even visit the U.S. That you can be detained. So this is not. Listen, it's us because it is a racist policy, right? It is brown and black people of color that they're targeting because they could see it. But it's also classist. And it's also, I'm telling you, if you speak out and let's say you talk about Palestine, they're targeting those people. What happened? What is it that you said with these creators and everything, or the people that's going to the college university? What's the website?
There is a website called canarymission.org where it has professors, organizations, students, all listed with their pictures and posts on social media of participating in the Free Palestine movement that are being targeted and literally kidnapped off of this street. And I say kidnapped because that's what's happening, because these ICE agents do not have any identifying marks. All they have is their street clothes and they're covering their faces. So in reality, you have no idea who's actually picking you up. And they're picking up females. So you tell me, if a man comes to get you and he's all covered up, you're going to think it's a kidnapping because you have no idea who they are. But let's be frank here. Okay, let's be frank. And I'm going to ask you a question, Cece, a hard question. Where were you in 2016 when the current administration started villainizing the Mexican community? But most people only stand up when it comes into their community. When it's, for example, right now, it's the Cubans, it's Venezolanos. Where were you when Donald Trump was saying the Mexicans are not sending their best? And usually, I know that America, let me finish 1 second, please. I know that usually America clarifies everyone who's brown as Mexican because they can't tell us apart. If the three of us were in a line, we'd all be Mexican, even though she's a Boricua and you're Venezolana. So where was your community speaking up? As the largest part of the community of the Latino monolith, as a Mexican woman, I'm going to say that most of my brothers and sisters are not standing by your side. They don't care.
And so let me just explain a little bit more, because we're getting really concerned, especially with the Mexican population and what the word in the street right now, right, is that they're not even thinking of backing even a Democrat right now. That it's that bad.
Conversation.
Yeah. So let's talk about that hard conversation. Go ahead.
Yeah. Great, Letty. I can answer that. I can give you two answers because you were asking me where I was and where was my community. And it's very important to say that no one of us can speak for our whole communities. Like, I do represent a large population, particularly on the Democratic side of the Democrats here in Florida. But in 2016, where I was in Venezuela. I actually was not involved in U.S. politics as of yet, because my family and I became refugees in 2017. Where I have been, like me as an individual has joined. I have been on the immigrant side since I joined the U.S. I have worked on trying to advance a permanent solution for immigration that benefits not only Venezuelans, but people that have been waiting here way longer than us, because the Venezuelans are a very recent immigrant community from the 2000s to here. Like, I do acknowledge there are Central Americans, especially your Mexican brothers and sisters, have been here for decades. We're actually here before the border crossed them. They did not cross it. I'm very aware and I sympathize with that. And I do take responsibility to a certain degree of how our community has for the longest time think that they're better. Like, we cannot ignore that Venezuelans do speak and behave thinking that they just deserve some special treatment. And that's very wrong. And I think this very unfortunate circumstances is making them realize that, one, they gotta humble down. Venezuelans do gotta humble down. And two, be fucking grateful for the rest of the immigrant community that have been doing this battle for the longest. And that's what I really applaud what the National TPS Alliance is doing, which is being led by Salvadoranians. Because these people have been offering their support, asking for nothing in return. And I think it's one of those moments where, as a Venezuelan leader, I'm very committed to ensure that our people do not forget these moments. Like I cannot be accountable for what my people have or have not done in the past, but I can be accountable for how we move forward in terms of like, do not forget who was here for us. Like saying Venezuelans, we all are Venezuelans today. We all are Haitians today. We all are gonna be Yemen when they remove TPS for them as well. Like we all are gonna be in this fight together, because yes, it's gonna be very terrible for years of the Trump administration, and then hopefully there's gonna be a Democratic administration after. And we also need to keep that one accountable to whatever the promises they make to our Latino people. And I think I debate a lot between not forgetting what the administration prior did to us, because the Biden administration was who provided TPS in first place, and we gotta be grateful for that. But we also gotta keep them accountable that they commit a lot of mistakes to our other immigrant communities. Like they diminish them, they forget them, and they mistreat them. So where I was in 2016, unfortunately, I wasn't here in the fight as just yet. As I moved to the U.S. in 2017, I entered politics between 2018 and 2019. In the ground, organizing at the grassroots level with the farm workers. Like I have been with every single fraction of our big immigrant community when we had those movements. But I do not speak on behalf of my whole community. I can only apologize for not being more proactive, for not being more sensible to the fights of others. But I will say, when those attacks came from Trump in 2016, you guys were not alone. We did feel those attacks because we understand that he was not referring to Mexicans. He was referring to all of us, because to their eyes, we all are Mexican. I'm very aware of that. Like I have had those moments where people just think that, oh, you're from Florida, you're gonna be Cuban. No, there's more people than just that. And then now I will hope that the empathy that we felt when those racist attacks were coming, when he was talking that they're not sending the best, you guys also understand that now that the Venezuelan, that conversation is also to every other country in Latin America when he says they're sending the people from the mental institutions. Now he's referring to Venezuela, but he's also referring to the other countries in Latin America. So I hope that answer. I don't think that there is no perfect answer to that. There is just an honest one, and that's the one I have for you today, Letty.
And she's very involved. Like Letty, I need to go over there to California because she's very involved. She's been with indivisible.org, so she's doing everything she needs. She's giving out the red cards, making sure people know their rights. And we've been doing these conversations, so making sure people protect themselves. But I think these questions need to be asked. I just said, Letty, you had a rough day today. Just be, ask it nicely. Because see what we have right here, we have a glass of wine, so we can just kind of like but I do want to ask one question, and I know I have to let her go because it's been a trying day. It's been long for her.
We're not over yet.
Yeah, and it's a lot of Letty, how it is going out there and you're doing your rallies and you're doing your marches and you're talking to people and everything. But one of the things that I do want to ask, where do you think, because we had this conversation, where do you think that the Democratic Party went wrong when it dealt with Venezuelans? Because all of a sudden they were hearing a different voice, right? Either through conservative radio, through their family and friends in Miami, in that bubble of Miami, because Miami is still Democrat. I mean, they still have more Democratic voters. We're not voting.
Yeah.
We're not voting.
That's what happened in the country. It's a reflection also of the country. There's more Democrats, they're just not voting.
They're just not voting. So what
did we do wrong?
Happened?
There's a whole list. You will need a whole bottle.
Did you talk about it? Because I had to leave at 2:00.
No. Yo también me tuve que ir. Okay. Yo tenía otro lugar que estar. Like, I
was like, I gotta go. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, and as we say earlier in that meeting, that was not the moment where we were going to talk about whether or not we need to invest more in radio. There's time and places. Where did the Democrats fail and outreach the Latino vote? When they give it for granted. I think that was the first step. When they assumed that the Latinos, we were a block for them and that we were going to be there no matter what. That was the first mistake. I think the relationship with the Democratic Party and the voters is just like a relationship we have with a partner. The moment that you start giving for granted the love, the moment the love starts vanishing. Like that, I can tell you that. Messaging. I think we never talk enough about how we feel in messaging. And we keep failing because we haven't changed it just yet. We haven't changed it. I think we always been reactive and not proactive. And I think we say this earlier in the meeting we attended of when they say you guys are socialists, we only say we're not.
No, we're not. We're not.
Which there's 2 points there. As Democrats, we need to acknowledge that being socialist is not a problem. Like, we need to stop demonizing socialists as a bad thing, because we have to have the honest conversation. Most Venezuelans have Obamacare, which is a social democracy policy.
I see a lot of them.
Most kids of immigrants in Florida are able to go to school because in-state tuition, along with bright futures, which is being taken away, but it's a social democracy initiative. So thinking that socialism is bad, it's already it's being a problem for Democrats, because you're trying to deny something that we are. We do have policies that goes against the socialist democratic agenda. On that area, we fail. On the second part, the same messaging fail is we fail to acknowledge the trauma. I think with Cubans, Venezuelans, and Nicaraguans particularly, acknowledging the trauma about what they live in their countries is important. So if you're just trying to say, yeah, guys, we're not socialists, let's move on, we're Democrats. People don't understand how the bipartisan system works. They're saying that Puerto Ricans just move here and it's a different. They don't understand it.
There's like so many races. What is this for?
Yeah, you gotta like educating, and educating also comes for like asking, like, okay, guys, what did you went through? Oh, you went with a guy that he claimed he was bringing a revolution, and he was well intended, but then he stole, he borrowed, he stole, and he did all these things. You need to acknowledge the trauma, just like when you have a partner. I think the best analogy is having a partner who went through a traumatic relationship prior. He doesn't know how to love you. He wouldn't trust you because these people went through traumatic experiences, and you need to acknowledge them and understand, oh, maybe this thing that I do, this behavior triggers them. Okay, because it's triggering, maybe we should do something and communicate that we're not aiming to trigger them. We're actually doing this. And when I say this, it's in regards of, I have plenty of Venezuelan friends that when they think about the idea of socialism and communism, it's scary because they lost everything they knew. They lost their whole lives because it's a government that did a corrupt, totalitarian, violent government that did it on behalf of a socialism agenda. I would not say that what happened in Venezuela was real socialism. It was an idea, it was a lie that they sold to the very poor people that could not aim for better, and they delivered it. But at the end of the day, in the real practice, these people borrow, they were the real rich, they were the real 1% that lived the life while the poor people were just getting poorer and poorer and poorer, and they just blamed it on the rich corporate people in Venezuela, who were only getting weaker and weaker. So if you're able to like, what I'm trying to get is, like, Democrats fail at acknowledging where people are coming from and where their trauma is coming, and they were just trying to expect them to support them no matter what. And we need to go to basics, to basic people, like, why you don't trust us? What is scary about us? Can we have that conversation as a Democrat? And can you give me a chance to prove you that we actually are the people that care about the working class people? So I think that's where
I think we lost the working class, but Letty has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. How do you get your particular community, right? Your community. How do you get them to see that there's a difference between what happened there and what they could do here to make certain that they have clean drinking water, safety lights, traffic, ambulances? All of these things are part of a social network that we all pay for. So how do you talk to your community, say, look, these are the things that we have because we are part of that social construct? And then lastly, because I don't know if I'm going to talk again, because you have a rush to go to, I want to urge everyone on here to please advocate to sign on to the petition of the National Immigration Law Center, where you prohibit, they're going to send a petition to Homeland Security so that immigrants, undocumented immigrants, are not to register in that list that the administration wants them all to register on, so that they know where they're at. So if we can get people to sign that petition, that would be wonderful, because it's important. People are scared. So if your people are scared currently because they have a TPS and they have some kind of granted position, we also have to think of all the undocumented individuals in this nation that are running in fear, not going to work, not taking their children to school, not getting fear, not going to work, not taking their children to school, not getting medical care. That's really important. And as we sit here and advocate with you, we need you and your communities to also advocate with us.
So your community, yours called, what is it called? Venezuelan?
The Venezuelan American Caucus?
Yes.
So the Venezuelan American Caucus is a very young organization. I think we have been around for less than 3 years. And we are at the beginning of a grassroots effort. So I don't think we have the outreach or level nationally to mobilize the vast majority of Venezuelan, but we do have our team. We do our little effort.
But you guys are mostly here, though.
Mostly in Florida, a lot in DC and California. But we are amplifying as much as we can, and not only these efforts that to protect TPS for Venezuela, but also what are we doing to protect these thousands of 6 million, like there's millions of people that live scared, that have been living scared, but now they're double scared. Yeah. For no reason. And when I say no reason, like they shouldn't be scared, is that there's no human reason why this administration, other than their racist agenda, is coming for all of us. But to answer in terms of how can we reach our people, how can we organize our Venezuelan people to understand that all these very good things are part of a social benefit programs. Sometimes we gotta just change the word we use and just explain it. That is cosas con sentido comunitario. Like use a different word because you're not gonna change the way that they already bias to certain words. And I wish I could tell you that we can just like decode it. No, they came like this. And the best that have worked out at the local level with us in Central Florida and with Latinos and Venezuelans in Orlando and in Florida, showing them with example that there's true leadership among the progressive spaces that are willing to fight back for them without asking for the vote first. Like I think real champions like Congressman Frost and Soto, both championing for these communities, and us remembering that, because I think both Congress people and like at the local level, we have a lot of champions that go and do the hard fights, our legislations, and people don't get to know that. They only know the big headlines that the Republicans put about these people want trans kids to play girls. They do get that, but we are failing to say there were 12 Democrats trying to protect your kids in state tuition. We couldn't do it, but there were 12 people leaving tears and blood. Those are the things where you can then prove them that the same woman that was fighting for your kids' right to go to education was also fighting for affordable housing and for your rent to. So without you having to tell them that it's part, because we that are in the conversation get to understand political theory a little better, or average person don't understand that. The only thing they know is that they are scared of the for socialism. So show them with real tangible results that there's Democrats or whatever party it is, non-party, whatever it is, people fighting for them every day, communicate that effectively, and then ask them to start joining the cause, signing a petition today, knocking some doors tomorrow, but proving them with results before asking them for support. I think that's kind of like the best.
Well, I have a question here, and because we have to be wrapping up. It says, can she explain again, what stage do you think that we are right now? Do you think it's already an authoritarian regime? Because me and Letty, we're like dictatorship already.
No.
We're like, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. It's over.
Listen, you have 3 professors from Yale who just said they're leaving America and going to Canada.
I don't blame them. I
want to go too, but my husband said it's too cold up there.
So with statements like that, and then us as, like for my community as Mexicans, we're all getting dual citizenship. We're like, screw this. This is going bad. We need an out, because the next thing that's going to happen is that they're going to lock us in here. And none of us want to be locked in here.
The next thing that's going to happen is that when you start coming back from visiting family in Mexico or you visiting people in Puerto Rico, they're going to start asking questions. They're like, oh, why did you went to Mexico for 6 months? What were you doing there? Why were you there too long? That's when you start getting concerned, because if people are watching and they're like, why are you going? They're doing the persecution. That's how they start. They know we're having this conversation. They know that when we were earlier. Because one thing is like, we shouldn't have to be hidden. Like, we shouldn't be hiding that we were in the meetings organizing. I do see the sentiment that Letty share about, you know what? I should be getting ready to leave, because there's people that are smart, that are knowledgeable, that are seeing, they're kind of saying like, I come for the future, I know what is happening, flee. But I say again, there's gonna be half of this country that won't have an option to go nowhere.
Yes.
And just because we're privileged enough to may have plan B and C, there's people that their plan B was making sure that plan A work out. And I think let going is letting them win. And that's too poetic and too silly to think that the good people will win at the end. But it does. This may not be the end just yet. We may have to like stick around. But
that thing's like, she's shaking her. Listen, every time we like doom and gloom, and I said, give me something good. Tell me something good that happened today.
Yeah. I don't know. I saw you.
I know. Twice. You saw her twice. So listen, I want to keep it because I do have family here in town. I am very happy that she came today, but you're gonna come back, right? And we're gonna do it right the first time because we're on YouTube right now, Letty. And I didn't point the camera to the YouTube thing. And we only had like 2-3 people show up max because I didn't announce it on YouTube. But once I put it on there, because every time I put my video on there, it gets a whole bunch of views after the fact. So I think it's important we have this discussion. You're going to come back because she's going to keep us up to date on what's happening in the courts. Matrix, you have any last words for her?
No, I don't. I thank you for answering my questions. Now I know how a lot of other cases are going to actually go, especially if it's judges here in the DC area, like the one case that I'm waiting for Judge Chutkin to come up with.
Yeah, there is a case for Haitians in Maryland, New York. Yes,
that
we're
is
also
correct.
waiting on that one because all these cases gotta happen at the same time.
Yeah,
even if they have similar ruling, because kind of like I said, we gotta punch for all different angles. And I know it's silly, but we gotta make sure that we tire all their attorneys. Like we nearly needed to get them exhausted that they run out of attorneys. And I think super grateful for the invite, and I would love for her to come back. And I will actually offer my perspective on a different issue next time we come back. Matter of fact, I'm working on my honors thesis at UCF in the relationship between book banning here in Florida and in relationship with government censorship. Like how this is a parallelism that I already witnessed in Venezuela, and I'm actually defending the thesis at UCF next Wednesday. And by the time I will be back, it will be fully public at the database at UCF. But yeah, they dedicate a whole year studying how what is happening here in Florida is the beginning of fascism that I already listed it somewhere else, because that's how the government do. They create mechanisms to start shifting history, because this is what the kids will consume. And it's harder for you to like change a whole generation, because the moment you control what they get informed, and uneducated masses is easy to control masses. So we will have that conversation as well, like the parallelisms I see with government censorship and what the U.S. is doing now. So we'd love to continue multiple conversations.
So I want to remind everyone that by April 5th, we may not have this platform. So we will have to be using YouTube. Please follow everyone. If you have a YouTube platform, we all have the same handles. It's really important for us to really stay connected, which is really important to keep your handle names everywhere so that we can continue the conversation and building community. Because if we don't, we're lost. We're lost. We will be back in the dark. And that's the last thing we want with all of the book bannings, the censoring of information on the internet that is already currently happening, the 200 words that have been banned, them spying on us, asking for our phones during TCA checks, people being detained at every immigration stop. These are all very concerning factors. And as we stand here and watch our Venezuelan brothers and sisters being flown to El Salvador, it is disgusting, and it is a whole repeat. I don't care what anybody says, but where are my Jewish brothers and sisters? Because this is a repeat of what happened back then. And I don't see any of you suckers speak up of what is happening. And it is time for you to stand up, because the rhetoric that is being placed on the Latino, Hispanic, Venezuelan, Cuban, and Mexican communities all throughout this country is the same rhetoric that they started with when they started doing this to the Jewish people. So stand up, don't stay silent, because right now is your time to say, this is what I would have done in 1930 during that regimen. I would have been standing up and not being complicit. With that, Ceci, thank you for your information. I appreciate it. Thank you for being so honest and transparent.
Thank you for the space. Thank you for like cultivating community, because this is exactly what we mean when we say when we lose, we go unorganized. This is what it looked like to get organized on the
Exactly.
off years.
Yeah. So if you guys want to see the whole thing and you just caught it in the middle, I will be uploading this to the YouTube because it was only, I started 30 minutes into our conversation. So that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And furthermore, this filter looks better because I look white in this one. So please go download it because I think this conversation is very important. I'm going to bring her back when she goes to court again. She has no idea when she's going, but we are going to talk about what happens April 7th. So we should all be monitoring that case. Until then, thank you everybody for participating. I hate this because it makes it seem like 1,000 people peeping on me. Don't peep on me. You guys, I need you in the chat, but it doesn't even matter. And plus, I want my roses. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a great day, great evening, and you have somewhere else to go. She got VIP badges already, okay? So she probably went to the club and is now going back.
Have fun.
I pledged the 5th.
She got VIP. That's how we roll. Goodbye.
Bye, you guys. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye, Matrix.